Hello, everyone, and welcome to my introduction to this week's podcast, the continuing saga of Nat and Mikey, my new British friends who took on the wild adventure of floating from Three Forks to St. Louis, and now from St. Louis to the mouth of the Mississippi River below New Orleans. They're school teachers in early midlife. They came sort of naively, but with great sense of spirit, to the United States. They flew to Denver, hitchhiked from Denver to Bozeman, bought a canoe, got on the river at Three Forks, overturned it the next day for the first and only time, and have since floated 2,400 miles, essentially, from Three Forks to St. Charles and beyond. What an amazing achievement. And when they started, I met them by accident up at the confluence of the Missouri and the Yellowstone at Fort Union. And at the time, they knew nothing about Lewis and Clark, which, frankly, continues. But that's all right. They don't seem to think that Lewis and Clark are that important. But at any rate, that's neither here nor there. And so I said, well, when you get to a convenient place where you're, in a hotel, in a resort, in wherever you wind up where you have internet and a shower, let's talk. So we did a little while ago, a few weeks ago, when they were nearly at Pierre, South Dakota. And they were in great spirits and told lively tales and were so pleased by the generosity of strangers who they call river angels, who come in to help them in all sorts of ways. It's kind of amazing. And now I said check in after the first hard freeze, which they did by text, and then now they're at St. Louis, and they were literally under the Gateway Arch at a hotel as we spoke earlier today. And it was great to catch up with them. It's not the journey that I would have expected. It's not really a spiritual journey. It's not into the heart of darkness or the heart of the American outback. They're meeting a lot of people. A lot of people are being very solicitous and generous to them. It's amazing. That part of it is amazing. They've kind of fallen in love with America. And they're determined to go on. And they know what they're up against, that the Mississippi is a much bigger thing than the Missouri. They're kind of lamenting the loss, feeling the loss of the Missouri, which they've loved. And they're also thinking maybe of slowing down a little because they hate to see the journey end. Well, my view is keep on trucking, man. Winter comes all the way down to northern Louisiana. You want to keep moving as fast as you can. This has been an extremely mild winter on the upper Missouri, thank goodness. So they've only had a couple of tough nights, and when they did, someone gave them a blanket. They bought a new tent. They're just fine. And a hot water bottle. I mean, let's go to the show. We had a great quarterly meeting the other night. You should come on if you're a friend of this program. We have these quarterly Zoom meetings, and they're just a joy. My online course is underway about the Constitution, and that's had some of the best discussions. I've done Constitution courses before. I love them. It's one of my favorite subjects. But this is the most alive one. I mean, people want to talk. They want to talk about what we need to change in the Constitution, if it's possible to change anything in the Constitution, and much, much more. And so normally I do a lot of the talking, and people do mostly listening. I don't like it that way, of course. And so this time they're really stepping up, and the conversations are great. So there's that. There's also the Friends Book Club, which you can still join. We've done 1.5 books now, but we have 2.5 yet to go. We're just about to move from Edward S. Curtis, Short Nights of the Shadowcatcher by Timothy Egan, to Fool's Crow, the novel about the encounter of white people and the Piegan Blackfeet in the northwest section of Montana. It's all really extraordinary. So much is going on in my world, and I'm thrilled about it. A little tired, but thrilled, and glad to be alive, and glad to be doing this, and glad to be doing this course on the Constitution, because I believe that the Constitution is now at a critical moment, and I think it's going to come out all right. So anyway, join our friends group, contribute to this program in any way you can, please, at the highest level that you're comfortable with and can afford. It's an expensive little prospect of what we're doing here. The Airstream is in bed for the winter. I'm mostly at home. I'll be spending Thanksgiving quietly and Christmas quietly too with a good friend. But beyond that, just reading and writing and just delighted to know such people as Nat and Mikey of England. So let us go to the program. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this special edition of Listening to America. I'm Clay Jenkinson, and across from me, virtually at least, are Nat and Mikey, the intrepid British Missouri River adventurers who started 100 and some days ago and now are in St. Louis, I believe.
You're right. We're just by the arch.
So 108 days from Three Forks to St. Louis, 2,341 miles, more or less. If you're going to finish, it's 800 miles to the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah, tiny amount.
What? Is it only 800? I thought you said it was 1,000.
Well, that's whatever it is. 800. Poof.
It's nothing after what you've been through.
Exactly.
If it's really only 800, I mean, we're virtually there already. That'll take a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Good luck with that. So, a couple of things. I have a sort of betting pool going with your fan base now. So let me give you some of the options that they have. Number one, they will make it to New Orleans and become heroes. Number two, they'll pack it in and go ignominiously back to Britain and never talk about this again. Number three, they're falling in love with America and they're going to become naturalized U.S. citizens. Number four, one or the other will kill the other and be acquitted in federal court.
Yeah. For grounds.
You'd be acquitted. I wouldn't be acquitted.
Yeah, I would be acquitted. I look too sweet to go to prison.
Yeah, and also
I
do like the sort of person you'd murder. I look like a natural murder victim, I think.
We'll come back to tensions on the Lewis and Clark Trail. And then number five, they will disappear like Amelia Earhart and become world mythological heroes.
Well,
I like that idea.
What we want to know, Clay, is what are the odds? Because we're prepared to take some of those bets.
Yeah, which one do you want to take? So you'll make it to New Orleans, you'll pack it in, you'll become naturalized U.S. citizens. One of you will kill the other, or both, or that you will disappear like Amelia Earhart.
I quite like the Earhart thing.
The Earhart one's obviously the most romantic, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think we're going to do number one. We got that in the bag. That's no problem. We're going to make it. I would love to become a naturalized citizen of this country. I think.
Really? Truly?
I love this place, but also I do love my home.
And we really love cheese.
Yeah, cheese and bread. I mean,
you guys have bread, but
it's terrible bread.
It's not terrible bread. I don't think that's true, and that's no way of getting a naturalized citizenship.
Yeah,
right. That'll be used against you.
Exactly.
If you're going to talk like that.
I really love American cheese and American bread.
What's the cheese you miss most?
Cheddar.
Oh, English cheddar. Now, I was just in Oxford, and I had, you can go to Sainsbury's or Tesco and buy better cheese than the best cheese in America.
Yeah, that's right. It's what we call cheese. That you call cheese in this country, we call it American cheese, and you can get it, and that's the worst kind there is. But there's no such thing as spray cheese. I've never seen it in England.
And by the way, on the betting pool, most people reckon that you're going to make it, which is a little disappointing. I was hoping for something more heroic.
Yeah, but also that gives us great odds for some of the other ones.
Yes.
So you have to play the numbers.
I think if we don't make it, if it's option two, it's going to be a death in one of our families, or like a death of one of us, or something
unrelated to the journey.
Yeah, like if there's some serious thing we have to stop for outside. We've met a few people who've done a bit of this journey, and they've said, "Oh, I was going to do the whole thing, but life gets in the way," and that seems fair enough in lots of circumstances that life might get in the way. But I think, in terms of just us getting fed up with it and jacking it in because it's too horrible, I don't see that happening. We're having a nice time.
Yeah.
I'm so glad for you. So I've been thinking about this, following you along, of course, and my little world is following along, and they're very much interested in this, and they are rooting for you, and they're kind of puzzled why anyone would do this. And when I said in the first thing I wrote about you that you were morons, I got some pushback, but I said, hey, that was their term that they gave me. I'm just quoting you, Nat.
We are morons.
Yeah, just to be clear to all those people who are giving you grief about it, we are definitely morons.
We're certifiable morons.
All right. That's exactly. So 108 days from Three Forks to St. Louis. So I really want you just to lay out the last 4 or 5 miles as you came to the confluence of the Missouri and the Mississippi. So you must have known you were getting close. Tell us what that was like.
It was very exciting, but it was also incredibly misty.
Yeah.
So it was sort of, it's coming, we're so excited.
We're looking at the mile markers going 5, 4, 2, 1. We never saw the 3, but there wasn't really the sort of parade and ticker tape and
balloon drop
fireworks and stuff that we were expecting.
But you know what it was? We were coming off the Missouri, and it was very misty. And as soon as we saw the Mississippi, we saw just lights and cranes and what
pylons, bridges.
Yeah.
It's an industrial looking place, and in a kind of way that makes you feel like you've sort of gone. You were at the top of your school, and you've now gone to big school, and and barges as well. You know, we were told there'd be barges, but we didn't think we'd necessarily see them straight away. But there was loads of them, and there were like 15 barge tows, colossal things moving around, and we were like, yikes.
Yeah, we really felt like we're not in Kansas anymore.
We are actually not in Kansas anymore.
Yeah.
So that was
accurate. But I was there this spring at the confluence, right at Alton, right at the actual peninsula where they meet. And the Missouri is very wide there, and the Mississippi is very wide there. And then they combine. And you must have felt when you came around the bend and there it was like, oh my God, we floated the entire Missouri River.
Oh yeah, we definitely felt pretty smug. I would say there's one other point where we kind of were like, this is a big milestone, and that's after all the dams. So we someone told us that's the summit, and it sort of makes sense. The dams and the rivers, that's hard paddling, and then you've got a current from then on.
All downhill,
exactly. So there was that where we felt like, yes, we've done it. But yeah, getting to the end of the Missouri, I mean, by itself, that feels like something we can tell people. Yeah. We can say we've actually done a thing now.
Yeah, and also I think, but there was also a slight feeling of like we've really loved the Missouri River, and now we're going to the Mississippi, and who is this new lady, temptress with all her massive barges?
I remind you, back at the other end in our first conversation, you said that you had prepared for this sort of in a Huckleberry Finn sort of way, where maybe even thinking of a raft, and you knew that great book. So you've changed since then from the Huck Finn model to the more, I suppose, Lewis and Clark model, and you've only overturned once in 108 days?
Yeah, once, and that was on the second day. So I think we're doing pretty well. I would say that by the end, I hope this is not too far, but by the end of the Mississippi, that Mikey and I will be intermediate canoeists.
So, I don't think that you're going to do this, but this would be a natural place to pack it in and go home. You could say, hey, look, we did the Missouri, enough already, winter's coming, we do have lives and families, probably time to regroup, maybe come back another time, but you're not doing that.
I think if anyone's listening to this and is thinking about doing a trip like this, then the Missouri by itself would be an excellent. We know people who've done the Missouri, and it's a decent stretch. It's not. No one's going to say just the Missouri, and it's beautiful, and there's great people along the way, and yeah. So
yeah, you could
we're carrying on.
You could stop now, but we have a game in, because we live by the coast, and it's if you see the sea first, you say 10 points, and then you've claimed 10 points.
That's a game which would not work in America, really. There's just not enough sea.
But imagine the glory of getting that 10 points when we get to the Gulf. That's pulling me forward. 10 points for the Gulf after 6 months of not seeing the sea.
So this is what happened to Lewis and Clark. When they were going west the other way, they got to the Dalles and the Great Cascades on the Columbia, and then one day Clark said, "Oh, the joy, ocean in view." But then it's been disputed, Mikey. Oh. That's the problem. So that you wouldn't believe this, but there's an intense debate about whether he actually could see the ocean then, or if it was just sort of tidewater, or if it was just a widening of one of the bays. And so you can get into a shouting match at a Lewis and Clark conference about whether he saw the ocean that day, and the usual view is no, that he was just getting a little ahead of himself. But
I could certainly understand the controversy, though. I mean, for example, if he saw the lights on the, what are they called, the windmill, the
turbines,
on the turbines, the red lights, and does that count as seeing the sea?
Yeah, we often get into shouting matches about whether one of us has got 10 points or not.
Yeah, so
you get in shouting matches now or back in Britain?
Back in Britain.
Have you gotten into a shouting match on the 108-day journey?
How we got into we're not big shouters. Have we got into one or two being slightly too polite to each other? Then yes.
We've definitely had arguments with each other. Not loads though. And we've resolved them pretty well. It's actually, it's been a success, I would say, our arguing. I feel like we're addressing things and, getting on pretty well almost all of the time. So.
Yeah. A lot of apologizing. I think that's key. I think sorry might be one of our more standard words over the whole day. Oh, sorry I did that. Sorry I did this. If you make sorry a really cheap, easy word to say, it does help.
Well, there's only one way to get to New Orleans, right? And that's to keep moving downstream. And so that governs a lot.
Exactly. We have a shared goal.
We need to take a short break. When we come back, I want to ask you about what it's like to paddle into St. Louis in a canoe. It's a very special edition of Listening to America. We'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back to this special edition of Listening to America. I'm talking with the famous British adventurers, Nat and Mikey, who have successfully floated all the way from Three Forks to the confluence of the Mississippi and the Missouri. So you got to the confluence and it was a little misty and you had a sense of triumph, but it sounds to me like it wasn't a massive celebration. There were no fireworks, there were no parades, you didn't get the key to the city of St. Charles, etc. But when you then went on and floated into St. Louis, that must have really been something. Now, you'd seen a couple of cities before, I guess Omaha, but St. Louis is a major American Midwestern city, and you've been out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, just most of your time, you're utterly alone on this immense river system. Suddenly, there's this urban landscape. What's that like?
It's amazing. We weren't thinking about stopping in St. Louis. We thought we'll barrel straight through it because it's going to be hard to find somewhere to put the canoe and stuff like that.
And also, we'd heard like two things about it. One, there's an arch, and two, there's a lot of crime.
Yeah.
And so we thought, we can miss this place.
And then it was still misty that in the morning, and we saw the arch sort of from afar through the mist, and we thought, well, that looks a bit like half a McDonald's sign. We're not into that. And then we came around, and then the sun was gleaming on it, and we were beguiled. And
it's actually colossal. I mean, it's huge.
We were amazed by it. We were like moths to a flame. We sort of had to turn our canoe into the port, and we were like, wow. And so we decided to stay here for the day.
Yeah, it's got a much nicer sort of vibe in there. Like, we got out and walked around, and I'm not quite sure what it was. Maybe it was just the weather, but it seems like a really nice place, just sort of walking around it.
Oh, but also, you say there wasn't a parade at the confluence, but there was a parade in St. Louis.
Yeah, so that definitely felt like a parade for us.
I think some people might say it was a parade for Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Or something like that.
They might.
But the people who were in the know that it was for
really
us.
about you, of course. So that's a question I have, and I've been following your blog and fascinated by what you are doing. It seems to me like this is the Good Samaritan trip through America. That now people know what you're doing, and there's kind of a network that knows you're about to get to this, you're about to get to that. People come out, they take you to dinner, they offer to put you in their barn, their home, their castle. They want to shower you with whatever you might need. I mean, they're kind of almost rolling over you with their sense of joy and hospitality. I personally would find that oppressive because when I'm out there, I want to be Henry David Thoreau, alone in the universe. And that every time you turn around, there's somebody saying, hey, we got a catfish dinner up here 3 miles away. We want to take you. And 72 of our closest friends are meeting this week.
Well, we've been reading Walden because we
finally
play, and we're really enjoying it. We really like his hot takes. He loves a scorching hot take.
Yeah.
Well, give us a hot take. What do you mean by a hot take?
He does. There's one bit where he sort of rails against garlic bread.
Yeah, he hates garlic bread. He thinks that you should learn Latin so you can read the classics in Latin, but also you should learn Greek, but also you should learn the Vulgate Latin as well as the whatever, different versions of Latin.
And
otherwise, you just can't really enjoy Thucydides or whatever.
and
outrageous.
We
outrageous.
Before we read each chapter, we make a guess about what his hot take is going to be on that.
So hot take means like a snarky statement about American life, or
it means like an unusual take on a topic. Hot. I guess like an opinion you've not heard before.
Yeah, that he's raised his bean field and he's been hoeing this bean field for ages, and then he turns out he doesn't even like beans.
Doesn't like beans, and he sells them for like $2.12.
Exactly. So we've been really enjoying that about the people we've met. I think we don't find it oppressive. If you wanted to call our journey anything other than two morons going on an adventure, it's not quite a spiritual journey, but I would say in some ways it's a political journey because in the UK and in everywhere else in the country, I mean in the world, you hear a lot about America because it's so important, and you hear about it from the news, and you hear, oh, it's divided, here's some issues. We wanted to see what America was really like. So we decided to come and meet the people and really, throw our ignorance and our helplessness at their feet and see if they, helped us.
Yeah, I would say that the journey you're talking about of sort of explore into the wilderness isn't. You're right. It's not the journey we're taking. We have seen a bit of wilderness, but really it's a journey into the arms of Americans, and that's at least from my point of view, that's a success. Like I've been to America before, and I kind of wanted to do something with Nat where we met a lot of strangers and we saw the hospitality of Americans, and that they've been ticking that box excellently.
Yeah.
So, journey, great phrase, Mikey, journey into the arms of the Americans. Did you anticipate that before you flew to Denver? Did you think that you would have as many satisfying encounters with as many really generous people as you have had in this country?
I think Mikey thought it a bit. I am entirely blown away by, we have this list of people who have helped us, and it's sort of in 150 every day almost. I add to it of someone who's helped us in, from giving us a beer to inviting us to the most exclusive golf club party in the whole of St. Louis, just because they thought we were fun at a parade.
Which happened last night.
Yeah.
Yes, I would say I've hitchhiked across America before with when I was 20 with a friend, and we took a tent, and before we left we said to each other, well, maybe once a week or once every 10 days when we're really smelling disgusting, we'll get a motel room And we stayed in our tent maybe like 10 days out of 90. And the rest of the time we stayed with people who'd invited us into their houses. We were absolutely not expecting it then. But yeah, that is something I'm not surprised by.
In those 108 days, how many of those days and nights were you basically just alone in America?
Oh, that's difficult to calculate. It was a lot more.
Most, I would say.
Yeah, most.
Definitely most. We've met lovely people often, but we've also been in some pretty remote places. And every time we stop at the end of the day and there's not any people there, we don't aim to be among people. We don't aim at all, actually, and we end up by the side of the river a lot. Probably more than 70. More than 80, maybe.
All right. So at any point, have you met a menacing American who ordered you off his property or who was rude to you? I know that someone shot a gun at one point.
We've met, I would say...
Gun shooting incident springs to mind, yeah.
Just probably one. I mean, no, there have been a few others. When we were hitchhiking, we got moved on twice maybe just once, out of a gas station, and we went and sadly sat by the side of the road and hitchhiked from there. And she, yeah, I mean, I can sort of understand her point. We were just sort of hanging around her gas station for like 5 hours. But she said, go on your merry way or the PD will send you on it. Something like that. And it was a bit like, the word merry there does not fit.
I think she was riffing a merry old England cliche. So, but you haven't had any tough encounters where someone said, you're on my land and I want to know why?
No. There was one time where we were on someone's land and we thought it was real scrubland. So we thought we'd be there for a night. We turned up at, 7 or something. We'd be there for a night and no one would know we'd been there. And almost immediately, this guy arrived in his truck, and we thought, "Oh no, no, we're going to be told off." And he said, "What are you doing?" And we said, "We were hoping to stay here." And he said, "Well, it's going to be freezing tonight, so you better stay in my shed. Also, have you eaten? I'm going to take you to get a pizza and some beer." So almost always, that's what happens.
I think, we're fundamentally, really obviously not a threat. So the most kind of fearful of people who are worried about their property and and threats to them and their family, which is, I guess, reasonable. You see us and you see a kind of people who look like travelers, and then you hear us and you hear people who are clearly just visiting, and then you assess the situation and you think, they'll be gone tomorrow. they just want a place to sleep for the night.
Yeah, I think that's true. We look so pathetic often. We're wet and we're we're wearing 7-day-old clothes, and the main thing is we're always grinning, and I think that helps.
Is either of you said to the other, "I didn't know that about you"? That's the first time I've heard this about you. We've been together for many years.
Yeah, we've been together for 4 years. So I think it's sort of the depth of knowledge that you get a sense of. I really feel like I'm very tuned into Mikey's bandwidth now in a way that I wasn't before. I can tell when he's feeling a bit grumpy, and that's probably because he's not had enough peanuts,
or possibly because I don't have any control of my life. You have taken it all away from me.
Yeah, but it's usually the peanuts.
Yeah.
Right. We won't talk about the control issues.
Well, I've got a dash of peanuts near me now at all times.
Have either of you said out loud or wanted to say out loud, why are we even doing this stupid thing?
I think that we've never said that because we're enjoying it too much.
Yeah, I think fundamentally we both think it's a good idea, and that hasn't changed at all. It's been good the whole time. It is of course stupid. I mean, it is obvious. We often think to ourselves, well, I've just stuck my paddle well, this is what I think. I've stuck my paddle in the water, I've pulled it back, and we've moved forward 2 yards. And now I'm going to do it again. And I've just done it 1,000 times. And that was just today. And yesterday I did the same. And tomorrow I'm going to do the same. And what I'm doing is just dragging myself slowly down a country.
Yeah, like a slug.
What a stupid idea. Anyway, I still think it's a good idea, despite that slightly intrusive thought.
Yeah, I mean, I've been definitely on other trips when I was traveling alone, where there have been moments where I've thought, I just want to be back at home. I want to be in a place that I know and with people I know. This is all too much. But maybe it's because we're together and we sort of have quite a good support system of just us two. That hasn't happened. It feels, and I suppose we feel a bit like how a snail would feel. We've got our house, we've got our canoe, Winona, and we've got each other.
But I get both of these, or a lot of these questions. You're thinking correctly that we'd be more interesting if this whole trip was horrible in some way, and it hasn't been. It's been boringly great in lots of ways. We're getting on well with each other, and we meet nice people, and the absolute pits, the worst bits, are still basically fine.Ey're kind of all right.
No, I'm not wishing you any chaos of any sort, or tragedy, drama, catastrophe, armed interventions, police raps, court appearances, none of that. But I do think that a journey like this has to be transformative, inevitably, right?
Yeah, I think that's true. And yesterday what was our sort of fake anniversary, because we'd been going out for 4 years, and the day before we were both thinking, oh, we haven't got each other anything, and because we've been together the whole time, and almost always we're on a river,
or at Walmart.
Or yeah, that's true. I mean, there are lots of romantic things to buy at Walmart. But
condensed milk.
Yeah, another pot of condensed milk. But anyway, I woke up. I always wake up later than Mikey, and I woke up and he had drawn some roses on our canoe. So just with some Sharpies that we had, and I was so thrilled about it.
Oh, lovely.
Please.
And I don't think you need loads to be happy if you're really happy with someone specific.
No, you're reading Thoreau, and you pointed to some of the things that impress you in Thoreau, and some of the things that just are really weird about Henry David Thoreau. But he is talking about minimalism, and you have reduced your life to a minimalist, that you have a tent, you have sleeping bags, you have food, you have a stove, you have a few other things, and every day you get up and you get into a river and paddle for a while and then get out. And so that really has narrowed your experience into something that he would think is almost automatically productive of transmogonal thoughts and cosmic revelations and deep insights into the business of life and so on.
I think it helps us think about small things more than big things. We would, when he's saying he built his house and it's perfect for him, and he has this love for these bits of furniture that just work. We've definitely found that, that I just love my socks. I have such a deep affection for these socks that I've been wearing for
the same pair for 108 days.
Yes, almost that. And I burnt them in the fire accidentally. They're not smelling amazing, but they keep my feet warm all the time, and they're thick enough that I can walk over slightly sharp ground, and I love them. And there are lots of other things that we've brought along with us or been given that if they were just among our panoply of stuff, you wouldn't think much about, but they gain this real specialness because you rely on them, and it almost feels like they're keeping you safe.
And there's something, I'm not quite sure if this is answering your question exactly, but there's a kind of part of the reason that I like the idea of doing this trip is that you get used to any improvement you have in your life, and then you think it's just normal, and then you expect it, and then you demand it. And that I feel like that's a sort of if you kind of carry on improving your life, that's unsustainable. You have to, it has to get better and better, and then you kind of living like a king and still unhappy. So I feel like a good antidote to that is improve your life in various ways, but also make some things worse. So this trip is a little bit of removing, in a controlled situation, removing some of the things which make us comfortable. And it's not a great spiritual insight or a kind of deep thought, but just taking away a comfortable bed means that when you go get into a comfortable bed, you think, oh, that's really, really great.
But not, are we going to really have to get back on that river after we check out? That doesn't come to you.
Not really. Not really. We just sort of think, well, we've had our treat. You can't expect a treat forever.
We need to take another short break. When we come back, I have many more questions to ask you too. Nat and Mikey, the British adventurers who have now conquered the Missouri River and are about to launch into the Mississippi River itself. We'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back to this really interesting edition of Listening to America. When I last talked with you, you were just a few miles north of here, South Dakota, on Lake Oahe, and you were at a resort and you were kind of regrouping, and so we had a nice conversation then, and I said, if you survive, and you don't know where I am in this betting pool, but if you survive, when you get to the confluence of the Missouri and the Mississippi, let's talk again. So here you are. So a couple of quick things. First of all, back to socks. Nat, I agree with you. When I did my last journey on the Little Missouri River, I wore the same pair of socks every day, and they got disgusting. They got, in and out of the mud all the time, and they were wet 1 minute and dry the next, and you could just feel the fibers beginning to give out, and they got blackened by the campfires, and when I got back, they were so heavily used, let's put it, that they could almost stand up by themselves. And I kept them. I kept them for 2 or 3 years afterwards because they became iconic socks. They're like, it's like in Castaway. I don't know if you know the Tom Hanks movie Castaway, where he has this volleyball that he calls Wilson, and it became sort of my Wilson to have those socks.
Yeah, I think it's good. It's a sort of, you can't take the experience of being on the Missouri forever, but you can take the smell of those socks.
Now, speaking of the socks, I've seen a few of the photographs, and you have on at this moment the famous red striped pants, and I just want to burn them. I don't know about you, but I mean, they've become your signature trouser.
Oh yeah, I love them. I got them in a couple of years ago. I think they're excellent.
Yeah.
Although,
did you say you want to burn them?
Because I saw the picture of you. I mean, your trip has gone off the rails in so many ways. I saw a picture of you with Miss Missouri or whatever, and then she looks like a typical American beauty queen, $1 gazillion with the high heels and the sash and the big hair, and then you're flanking her, and you don't look like water rats, but you do look like a woman in those red pants.
Yeah, I think that's a fair accusation. We actually have matching ones. Mikey's got.
No.
Well, you'd be very much. You're in keeping with Mikey's niece, who, on the sort of maybe the second time I'd met her, we were wearing these matching trousers because we were both at a festival, and she almost vomited. She was like, "What? This is disgusting. Never wear those out again."
I'm afraid I'm with her. What's her name?
Emily.
Yes, I think I'm with her on this. And then, when we first met at the confluence of the Yellowstone in the Missouri at Fort Union in North Dakota, I said, what do you know about Lewis and Clark? And you said, really nothing. And so now I see you've mastered that, because I saw a photo of the two of you in those stupid, cheesy cardboard cutouts, and one of you is Clark and the other one is Lewis. And so you obviously have come to terms with the most important expedition in American history.
Yeah, we've we've accepted them finally. We feel like their ghosts have been hanging above us for I don't know 108 days. At the beginning we were like, who are these guys?
Yeah.
And who are they?
And my view is, what the hell are you doing in my country on the Missouri River if you don't know anything about Lewis and Clark? But be that as it may.
So, can I just ask you? You just said they're it's the most important expedition in American history, and my first thought was, what about that moon landing beers?
That was on a movie lot in Hollywood. That
Okay.
Come on. No, but of course that was very important too when humans first left the planet. But yeah.
My second thought, and this has been something that's bothering me a little bit all the time we've been learning about Lewis and Clark, which is all the time we've been traveling, is what was the long-term significance of their trip? Everyone sort of talks about how cool it was that they managed to make it, and you know, all the fun stories about John Coulter being chased and being shot in the ass and stuff like that. But what actually changed as a result of that trip for America?
I'm glad we're having this conversation. I'll say a couple of things. Number one, so I hate to burst any balloons you may have, but it's going to have the same worldwide cultural impact as your journey.
In other words, zero. You know, it's like they went, they came back, they mostly survived. But when they came down the river in 1806, as you have just done, they met more than 100 people going up the river to get in the fur trade, to trade with native peoples, to explore the West. And so, in other words, that door had opened, and it had almost nothing to do with the expedition of Lewis and Clark. Now, they did some important things for science. The map that Clark produced was first rate, and it holds up after all of this time. Maybe most important, and not to get lost on Lewis and Clark, this is about you, but they had these relations with native tribes, more than 50, and on the whole they were quite successful. I'm using air quotes, but they essentially were the spear of the American colonial imperialist agenda, and they basically said to natives, cooperate with us and things will go pretty well. Nice. Fail to cooperate with us and things are going to go pretty badly for you. They get high marks for being relatively enlightened, but they were the tip of the spear of the Great Dispossession, one of the great tragedies of modern human history. But when they got to St. Louis, which you are now at, they landed. People said, and this is what people said of you, especially if you were wearing the red pants, but they said they looked like refugees from Robinson Crusoe when they came in. And then Lewis and Clark immediately sold off everything. They just unceremoniously sold off everything. They paid the men. Lewis and Clark, you didn't do. The minute they got to St. Louis, they went to a tailor and got new suits made for themselves because they were Virginia gentlemen. And they had to keep up appearances. You didn't go buy a tuxedo and a gown when you got to St. Louis.
No,
we're still here.
We could still do that.
You should do it. You know, if you did, I'd pay for it because then you could have photos of you on the next phase wearing the tuxedo and the gown.
You know, we'd
have the gown, but we'd still be wearing the stripy pants.
When we first thought about our trip, we thought no one's going to be interested in us, and therefore no one's going to help us, and we're going to need help. So we really did consider Mikey wearing a bowler hat the whole time, and me wearing a sort of incredibly large 80s pink dress. That was we really thought about that for a while.
There's still time.
There's still time, but my gosh, it would have been hot.
Yeah, exactly. So now let me ask a different kind of question about this. You've done all of this and you've been recording it, and I think there's a book here, frankly. I hope that you will consider writing one when you get back, because it's a pretty amazing thing. And, you know, the part that surprises me is how well you've been treated, how many people have gone out of their way, frankly, way out of their way, and at considerable expense to look after you. And from my own point of view, that feels a little much, but it must be terribly reassuring to know that all along the way now there are people who are looking out for you, want you to succeed, would drive hundreds of miles to help you if you really needed it. I think that's the story. And at a time, I was just in Britain, and the British people, as you know, are not at the moment particularly fond of America. They're pretty worried about what's going on in this country for good reason, and they are appalled by what's going on at the highest levels of American life. And of course, former Prince Andrew got ground up in that also, as I'm sure you know. So your experience is very different. Your experience is that the American people are terrific, and things are really it's a good and decent country, and it's not the caricature. It's only a slight caricature that Britain has.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what we feel.
We've met a few people who say they don't watch the news anymore, and I can certainly relate to that. It's often terrifying or depressing. If you've got any listeners who feel like that, they don't want to watch the news, I feel like we can provide a small service to them. Like, read our blog, take that as your news. Every day it's going to be someone was nice to us, and that's happening. That is real. That's real news. It's just not very.
It's not very big.
Not very gripping. So that's why it doesn't go on the front pages. But all the time, people are being nice to people everywhere. It's a pretty nice place, this country. So that's our alternative news outlet.
Yeah.
Excellent. So now you've done some really odd things. You've been to the National Corn Cob Pipe Factory, and I've seen
the biggest national pipe factory in the world.
In her Popeye photo, trying to smoke that pipe. So where is that?
That is in Washington. So
Washington, you should really say.
Where is this Washington? It's not the Washington.
Washington, Missouri. It's just
It's probably 100 miles back, or maybe 70 miles back from the confluence, something like that.
So I want to turn to the future. You're at this inflection point. Could pack it in. Could say winter's coming. What is your immediate plan? How do you see the rest of this, let's call it 1,000-mile journey, unfolding?
No, I mean, we just like all things, we just barrel into it.
Head south, keep ahead of the cold weather
if we can,
and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking maybe if we go successfully ahead of the cold weather, slow down a bit. And like today, that was in the back of my mind. We stopped in St. Louis to have a look around St. Louis, partly because we're kind of thinking maybe now it's all right to slow down. We've got time, and we might not be back in America for a while, so suck in as much as possible.
But also, in terms of, if you've got high expectations or any kind of expectations, that you might be disappointed or they might be different. So we always think the less prepared you are, the better the adventure. That's our motto.
Yeah,
that's worked out for you so far. So let's say it's 1,000 miles. When do you sort of anticipate arriving in New Orleans, Louisiana?
Well,
January or February?
Yeah, January or February, late January or early February. It'd be good to be there for Mardi Gras, because then we could pretend that Mardi Gras was for us. And that we've had our parade in St. Louis, but the whole town going wild just because we've arrived, that would be pretty fun.
Of course, you'll have New Year's fireworks and parades somewhere.
Oh yes, that's true, and we'll have Christmas.
How
will you spend Christmas?
We're not sure.
Unplanned at the moment, and same for Thanksgiving. We've got a few things where we're sort of just hoping something will happen on the day, but potentially eating condensed milk in our tent.
Well, today is Sunday, so just about 5 days before Thanksgiving, when we're recording this on the 23rd of November. I've been kind of trying to figure out what that looks like, and I think you're going to get some invitations to Thanksgiving dinner here in the next couple of days, and it should be very interesting.
Say yes.
Yeah, if we do, we'll say yes. But the problem is we're always moving, Yeah,
it's hard to know where we are. We're not particularly convenient guests.
Yeah, we always bring a canoe.
Yeah, well, there's that. But
I think that, as I'm sure you know, Thanksgiving is a very big thing in the United States. It's my favorite holiday because it has less merch than all of the others. It's a great gratitude festival and a kind of sacrament to American abundance. It's the one time of the year that most Americans will say grace in some form or other, secular or otherwise, around that table. People often will grip hands with each other and tell what they're thankful for that year. And then there's, of course, this gigantic feast of a huge turkey and green beans and potatoes and squash and corn and et cetera, pies. And so I would hope you have that experience, and because it really is something remarkable about American life.
Yeah, I really like that attitude to take a day where you say, I'm really thankful for this or that. I think that is a really excellent way of living.
It is really good, isn't it? And it's sort of surprising because we American culture leaches into British culture, and mostly we sort of resent it. You know, young kids watch American TV and then they end up using American slang, and old people say, that's American. Of all the things that would be a real bonus, Thanksgiving is an excellent. I mean, we don't really have a time when we sort of say what we're thankful for during the year, and that's just clearly a good idea, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good to practice it as well. I think once you start noticing things that you're thankful for, you notice them all the time, and you know that can only be good for how you feel and how you feel about the world around you.
And so from a logistics point of view, you've got it worked out. You've got your food supply, you've got all the things that are required for daily existence, especially kind of this, what I would regard as a relatively monotonous set of dinners. That's all in place.
Yeah, it's all in place. I think we've got a pretty good system worked out now. Mikey is still quite often rearranging the whole boat.
You've got to rearrange every time you get a new piece of kit or the weather changes. You've got to rearrange it you've got to rearrange constantly. That's just the way you've got to.
Overall, our system is working well, and yeah, we feel pretty confident in it, and we feel pretty confident-ish about the weather.
No, I think, and I'm no expert on this. You've done a longer canoe journey than I've ever done, and that's an amazing achievement. And I want just people to understand what an amazing achievement it is. As you know, most people who try this don't finish. Many things can go wrong. This is a really, really, really tough thing that you've done, and it's an amazing experience. And crossing those slackwater reservoirs in the Dakotas is not a simple thing, and it's quite a dangerous thing too. And you've been enormously successful in this, and so I just so congratulate you. When you get to New Orleans, will you stop, or are you going to go all the way to the Gulf?
I think we'll have to go to the Gulf.
You've got to go to the Gulf.
You've
got to go to the Gulf. I mean, why quit? Why quit then?
Exactly.
We have been toying with the idea of going down the Atchafalaya at the end of the Mississippi. So skipping the last section of the Mississippi, not because we are wimps, although there is an element of wimpishness.
There's a wimp element to this.
Well, it's shorter, but mainly because a lot of people have told us it's just much more interesting. Kind of goes through the swamps and the
alligators
and like.
Yeah, what could go wrong?
We got to get to the Gulf. I think that's
got to get to the Gulf.
Maybe
so
anyone promises about that.
When you do
you have a celebration in mind, or see what happens?
Yeah, I don't think we've got a celebration in mind.
What I'm imagining is getting there, looking at some arbitrary line we've invented in the water, thinking, I guess that's the Gulf, and then turning around and paddling back.
Ocean and view all the joy. Yeah, exactly. All right, so you've seen the barges. The wake from these things can overturn a canoe in a second. Have you had any wake crises yet?
We've felt a bit of the power of their wake. So far, we've been all right. We've had quite a lot of experience of bumpy water now.
And our canoe's really stable, so that's good. But yeah, we haven't got any real experience of these colossal barges with. Well, we don't know is the answer how we're going to deal with that. But people manage it, so it must be possible, right?
Our plan is just to stay out of their way.
So, do you have life preservers or not?
Oh yeah, you have to. It's the law.
Well, there are many laws in this country. So, all right, and you're good swimmers?
I'm a very good swimmer. Mikey's not a bad swimmer, but also I have, sometimes, when I get a bit bored on the boat, which is not very often, I have this sort of fantasy where I rescue him from the water. I sort of dive in and I grab him and stuff.
Wow.
So,
what?
Yeah, exactly. What?
I was trying to think. There's definitely times, you asked when you find how have you ever sort of said, I didn't know that about you. Well, that's definitely the answer to that is yes, but I couldn't think of any. But I didn't know that about.
Now we know that she has a rescue fantasy going on. And then you're forever in her debt, and she's in control from that day on because I saved your damn life.
Yeah, we're doing what I want to do.
Exactly, because I could have just gone on, but no.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
So fingers crossed. So
promise me that you will let me know when there are new developments.
Yes,
if there's a convenient time between now and New Orleans to talk again, I can tell you that you have a following going here, and people say, when will you check in with Nat and Mikey? What do we know about Nat and Mikey? And I think, hey, am I my brother's keeper here? But I'm delighted to have this friendship with you, and I'm thrilled by your willingness to do this. I'm glad you were on my friend John Williams on WG, and he's got a following now that's interested in you, so we'll try to arrange that again too. But please let me know where you're going to be for Christmas, because that's going to be a big deal. I don't want you to be out there eating your spoiled mayonnaise on Christmas Day. And then saying, should we open the can? Should we open the condensed milk? No, maybe we wait. No, I don't know.
Anyway, with a dessert of condensed milk.
Why not? Okay, everybody. Good luck to you. We'll see you all next week for another important edition of Listening to America.